Sidney Powell. And the only guy who would ever allow that on Fox to be said is Lou Dobbs. You heard Sidney. This is not a computer glitch. That's what they're going to try to spin it. Or human error. Sorry. This is a multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated criminal vote fraud operation. Now, Sidney was back on with Lou Dobbs a couple days ago. And I want to play for you what she said then. And she decided she wanted to talk about releasing the Kraken. Take a listen.
Well, I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. So if you want to talk about foreign election interference, we certainly have it now. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems, surprisingly enough. Hunter Biden type graft to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it. Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results, if they're stupid enough to do that, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide. It's going to be irrefutable, and patriots are coming forward every day, all day, faster than we can collect their information with testimony they're willing to give under oath about how their votes were stolen and how the machines operated. They were updated the night of the election, sometimes after the election. We've got statistical evidence that shows hundreds of thousands of votes being just put in and replicated. It's going to be, there needs to be a massive criminal investigation, and it's going to affect millions of voters and elections. I know that even Democratic senators and congresspeople for years have reported problems with this system to the FBI and to the government, and nobody's done a blooming thing about it. The people in the election security part of Department of Homeland Security need to be fired yesterday. They're absolutely ridiculous. Of course, Chris Wray needs to be fired too, because the only FBI interview of any witness was to intimidate him and try to get him to change his truthful testimony 4 hours by an anti-Trump FBI agent. They still have politics infecting the FBI instead of just following the law. We are on the precipice of, this is essentially a new American revolution. And anybody who wants this country to remain free needs to step up right now. These are federal felonies. Altering a vote or changing a ballot is a federal felony. People need to come forward now and get on the right side of this issue and report the fraud they know existed in Dominion voting systems, because that's what it was created to do. It was its sole original purpose. It has been used all over the world to defy the will of people who wanted freedom.
Sidney, at the outset of this broadcast, I said that this is the culmination of what has been over a 4-year effort to overthrow this president, to first deny his candidacy, the election, but then to overthrow his presidency. This looks like the effort to carry out an end game in the effort against him. Do you concur?
Oh, absolutely. And it's been organized and conducted with the help of Silicon Valley people, the big tech companies, the social media companies, and even the media companies. And I'm going to release the Kraken.
Well, good, because this is an extraordinary and such a dangerous moment in our history. I really am very concerned for the country. I am very concerned for all Americans. And I have a feeling that most Democrats are first Americans and not Democrats. They have to be as alarmed as any one of us. Cindy, we're glad that you are on the charge to straighten out all of this. It is a foul mess, and it is far more sinister than any of us could have imagined, even over the course of the past 4 years. You get the last word, Sydney.
It is indeed a very foul mess. It is farther and wider and deeper than we ever thought, but we are going to go after it, and I am going to expose every one of them.
Trust me, folks. I know Sidney Powell very well. She just doesn't say things. She is. And that is why they're so panicked and why they're so desperate. And then Sidney went on Maria Bartiromo's show on Sunday. This was from the Epoch Times' Jack Phillips. Trump lawyer Sidney Powell, quote, "We're getting ready to overturn election results in multiple states," end quote. Former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell, a Trump campaign lawyer, suggested on Sunday that there is still more evidence coming out in President Donald Trump's claims of voter fraud and irregularities. That's for sure. There's a mountain of it. Quote, "We're getting ready to overturn election results in multiple states," Powell said, saying that she has enough evidence of election fraud to launch a widespread criminal investigation. Quote, "I don't make comments without having the evidence to back it up," she added, saying that election software switched millions of votes from Trump to Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Powell said a whistleblower came forward and said the election software was designed to, quote, "rig elections," end quote, saying that, quote, "he saw it happen in other countries," end quote, referring to voting systems, Dominion voting systems, and Smartmatic, or perhaps other software and machines have done. "We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose," end quote, Powell said, while noting she won't reveal the evidence that she has. Why? Because there are going to be a massive number of trials and prosecutions on this, folks. Quote, "They can stick a thumb drive in the voting machine. They can upload software to it even from the internet, from Germany or Venezuela even," she said, adding that operations, quote, "can watch votes in real time and can shift votes in real time, or alleged bad actors can, quote, remote access anything," end quote. Somewhere down the line, I think you're going to hear about hundreds of people that had admin privileges that were involved in manipulation of the votes, folks. Just a hunch. Quote, "We've identified mathematically the exact algorithm they've used and plan to use from the beginning that allegedly switch votes to Biden," Powell stated. Sydney's a very smart person. And she's very, very strategic. Well, then there's some folks that are not so strategic and are caught on the wrong side of this. Joint statement from Elections Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council and the Election Infrastructure Sector Coordinating Executive Committees. These are all deep state swamp rats. I mean, here's what they came out with on November 12th. You ready for this? I mean, you saw the videos of votes flipping, right? You saw them. They were all over social media, all over the internet. Listen to these clowns. Quote, "The November 3rd election was the most secure in American history. Right now, across the country, election officials are reviewing and double-checking the entire election process prior to finalizing the result. There is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was any way compromised. Other security measures like pre-election testing, state certification of voting equipment, and the U.S. Election Assistance Commission's certification of voting equipment helped to build an additional confidence in the voting systems used in 2020. Quote, while we know there are many unfounded claims and opportunities for misinformation about the process of our elections, we can assure you we have the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of our elections, and you should too. Trust us, we're from the government. Yeah. When you have questions, turn to election officials as trusted voices as they administer elections, end quote. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And let me tell you something. One of the primary organizations that put this out was this CISA organization, CISA, they're the Division of Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Let me tell you something. You talk about a bunch of deep state swamp rats, and we'll get to them in a second. But as opposed to what they came out with, the chairman of the Federal Election Commission from Baxter Dimitri, Federal Election Commission chairman, drops bombshell, quote, now you just heard the stuff from the deep state. Here's what this guy says, quote, this is from the FEC chairman. This election is illegitimate, end quote. The chairman of the Federal Election Commission went on record with a bombshell announcement stating that from what he's seen in Pennsylvania and reports he's been getting from elsewhere in the country, the election is illegitimate. It really is explosive news. The top boss of all the election officials, Trey Traynor, has confirmed that in his professional opinion, quote, there has not been transparency in the election and this election is illegitimate, end quote. He dropped the bombshell at Newsmax when he made the announcement that he believes that, quote, that there is voter fraud taking place in all these places, end quote. There is no legitimate reason for all our observers to be denied access to the ballot counting. Ipso facto, the ballot counting must be illegitimate. That announcement isn't coming from just anyone. Trey Traynor isn't just a state election official, he's a federal one. Speaking to Newsmax, Chairman Traynor said, quote, despite winning a court order which allows the Trump campaign to send observers to watch ballot counting in Pennsylvania from 6 feet away, ballot watchers have not been allowed into the polling locations in a meaningful way, end quote. Traynor points out that, quote, when observers have been permitted to watch, the goalposts have been moved away, end quote. Simply put, quote, there has not been transparency in the election, end quote. He goes on, quote, our whole political system is based upon transparency to avoid the appearance of corruption. There you go. The head of the FCC. Now, I mentioned this CISA out of DHS. DHS Cyber Director, ready for this? Chris Krebs. Now, this is Mary Fanning and Alan Jones. Great investigative journalists brought this forward. DHS Cyber Director Chris Krebs. Oh, by the way, you can get all their information. Great site, great depth, great analysis they have. TheAmericanReport.org. TheAmericanReport.org. DHS Cyber Director Chris Krebs and Deputy Director Matt Travis tied to James Clapper, you know, the guy who, along with Brennan and Obama and with Biden and Comey and Mueller, took the Hammer surveillance system, which was used to watch terrorists. They took it for their own private use. Okay, so the Cyber Director Chris Krebs, in charge of this CISA organization that says, oh, everything was fine with the election. Oh, don't worry about that Hammer thing and the scorecard thing and the Dominion thing. Forget it. Let's just go have coffee with our masks on, right? Okay. DHS Cyber Director Chris Krebs and Deputy Director Matt Travis tied to Clapper, who commandeered Hammer scorecard. Okay, listen. This is from Mary Fanning Alan Jones. The Hammer supercomputer scorecard application injected into state election systems in 10 states cloned identically sized blocks of Biden votes that were used to steal the 2020 election from President Trump, according to CIA whistleblower Dennis Montgomery, who was granted immunity by the Department of Justice and FBI for exposing illegal domestic surveillance. There may be a reason why CISA Director, this organization, Chris Krebs, is denying the existence of vote fraud, vote tampering, the Hammer, scorecard across the board, right? Everything's fine. Krebs worked closely with intelligence contractor Kevin P. O'Prey at Obsidian Analysis, Operaton hired and worked closely with U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General James Clapper at DFI International. Clapper received a $50,000 exit bonus from DFI, then awarded Operaton's DFI branch a contract with Clapper's Pentagon office that oversaw the Hammer and Scorecard. Clapper illegally commandeered the super surveillance system. The Hammer Scorecard was one of the exploits that ran on the Hammer framework that secretly stole elections. Christopher Krebs, the DHS Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA director, who claims that, all this voter fraud and the electronic manipulation and Dominion's software problems and Hammer and Scorecard, he claims that all those are a hoax and reportedly expects to be fired by President Trump. Yeah, I would expect that, buddy, pretty soon. Should have happened already. Was a principal at Obsidian Analysis, a Washington, D.C. intelligence consulting firm co-founded in 2010 by Kevin P. Operaton and Matthew K. Travis. Matthew Travis is currently, guess this, the CISA deputy director behind Krebs, where he reports directly to Krebs, and when Krebs is removed, well, Travis could well be put in his position. Oh, great. Another swamp rat. Department of Homeland Security Acting Secretary Chad Wolf is defying President Trump's order to terminate election cybersecurity official Krebs, multiple sources have told the New York Post. Should Krebs be forced to step down, his role would likely be filled by Deputy Director Travis, who served as the Deputy Director since 2018. The swamp is deep. The swamp is deep. Sounds like Travis needs to go too, based on his relationship with Clapper. But remember, they're going to keep drilling into you. This is a software glitch. No, it's not a software glitch. Don't buy into that. That's trying to say, oh, it was just a little mistake. Oh, it was human error. Oh, it was just random. It was a multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated, criminal vote fraud operation. Remember that. That is so important over the days and weeks to come. So it's not a glitch. It was a deliberate, the software, the Dominion Smartech software on these voting machines and tabulators. Folks, it was essentially, a key under the doormat. Okay? It was supposed to provide security, safety. It did none of it. It left the system wide open so that Scorecard, so that the Hammer could be utilized to manipulate all this stuff. It was a key under the doormat. Now, Sidney Powell recently tweeted, Smartmatic and Dominion voting systems are inexorably entwined. Soros' number two man, a guy by the name of Lord Moloch Brown, heads up Dominion, which has been funded by a corrupt criminal communist money laundering operations through Venezuela, Cuba, and China, Joe's favorite country. And she went on to say, President Trump has all the evidence. In addition, there's some security guy position, vice president of security at Dominion, who's linked to Antifa. Does that surprise you? Heck no. Biden's foot soldiers. Now, some people said, well, Sidney Powell's off on that. Now, remember, Sidney does not present information unless she's doggone sure of it. Locked in. Confirmed. Multiple sides. Some people said, well, there's no link between Smartmatic and Dominion voting services. Oh, no, Sidney was right. They're wrong. Mark Moloch Brown, the chairman of something called SGO Corporation, is the holding company of Smartmatic. And here's what he said in 2015, quote, part of our technology at Smartmatic is licensed from Dominion. Okay, so when you start hearing, oh, no, there's no linkage between, there is. And has been pointed out by Mary Fanning and Alan Jones in their dissection with Scorecard. And we've talked about Scorecard. Go to last week's video. But Scorecard steals elections by tampering with the computers at the transfer points of state election computer systems and outside third-party election data vaults. Data vaults, remember that. Like warehouses of votes. Remember that. That's really important in the days and weeks to come. Warehouses of votes. In fact, some people call them, from my hometown, even in other parts of the country, they call them Chicago warehouses. It's kind of based on the old Mayor Daley stuff in ballot boxes. Chicago warehouse of votes. Remember that. Scorecard uses a prismatic scoring algorithm that this Dennis Montgomery created to achieve the desired results by those that control the hammer and scorecard. Fanning and Jones also point out the Democrats tested their technology during the Democrat Party primaries, as we mentioned. Otherwise, Bernie Sanders would have won the 2020 nomination and the 2016 nomination. We have data on that, by the way, that has been passed to the appropriate places. Scorecard was utilized on behalf of Joe Biden during the 2020 primary against Bernie Sanders. In other words, the Democrat primary was stolen from Bernie. Montgomery testified regarding Scorecard and the hammer while under oath and while being videotaped at the FBI secure Washington, D.C. field office SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility. That was in December 2015. So for the FBI to tell you, we didn't know about this. Oh, they knew about it in December 2015. He testified under oath about Scorecard and hammer and about software issues on these voting machines and tabulating machines. They've known about it since December 2015. They put him under oath, they put him on video, and he testified. And if he had lied about that, he'd be in prison right now. Right? I mean, look what they tried to do to General Flynn. He didn't lie. Montgomery's not in prison. And while we're talking about Dominion and Smartmatic and their links to Venezuela and Cuba and China and money laundering activities and how their software was a key under the doormat for these other electronic intrusions to occur. There's a guy named Peterneffinger. He is retired from the Coast Guard here in the United States. He was a vice admiral. And let me just give you a little background on. He's this guy Peterneffinger, Vice Admiral Peterneffinger, United States Coast Guard, retired. Enjoyed a distinguished career in the U.S. Coast Guard, where he served as the 29th Vice Commandant until June 2015. Who was president then? Oh, Obama. Yeah, okay. When he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate to head the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, you know, all those folks that he was in charge of that. And the Obama administration, all those folks that when you go to the airport and check you in, right? Check you out, right? Yeah. Position he held until January 2017. Well, what happened in January 2017? Oh, yeah. President Trump was inaugurated. Yeah, okay. Well, why am I bringing this guy Neffinger up? Well, Sydney actually brought him up as well. Peterneffinger is a chairman of Smartmatic's USA board. Oh. Former head of the TSA under Obama when Biden was vice president. And he's on the Smartmatic, where they're linked to Venezuela, China, and Cuba. A bunch of money going back and forth. Smartmatic, whose machines, along with what's linked with Dominion, and we know that from that guy Brown, throwing a bunch of elections around the world in conjunction with Hammer Scorecard. Well, that's not good. So a former retired Vice Admiral of the U.S. Coast Guard's on their president, chairman of their USA board. Gets a little more interesting. Neffinger is also on Biden's transition team. No, I know. Oh, I'm making it up? No, I'm not. Quote, "We are pleased to report that Admiral Peterneffinger, United States Coast Guard retired, has joined President-elect Joe Biden's agency review team under the Department of Homeland Security team." I kid you not. I kid you not. And there you have it. So where do we stand? Well, a couple things. One, you need to network this information to anyone and everyone you know. This video, for example. Go to our website, davejanda.com. Big red box. 3 things. General McInerney's interview 2 days before the election about what was going to occur. Sidney Powell, her on Lou Dobbs talking about it. Right there in that red box. And then an OAN 5-6 minute piece on Hammer scorecard. The multi-level, multifaceted, coordinated criminal vote fraud operation. Not a simple software glitch, as they're going to try to spin it to you. You need to network this information to anyone and everyone you know. The more people that become informed with this, the more people that can become empowered. And the sooner we end this reign of terror by the deep state. I also encourage you to go to defendingtherepublic.org, defendingtherepublic.org. That's the legal defense fund that Sidney Powell has set up. It's your freedoms on the line, folks. No more couch sitting. Got to get out there. And you might say, well, my neighbors they voted for Biden and I don't want to. They should be. Do they want to see an illegitimate operation in place? You would think that they would want to have all the votes counted, all the legal votes counted, all the smoke and mirrors removed. How can they be against? Anyone that's against investigating this, man, they can take that act to China. They can take that act to Venezuela. They can take that act to Cuba. But it sure isn't going to stay here in the United States. It's that simple. I thank you for your time. I hope you join us every Sunday, 2 to 5 Eastern, davejanda.com. You can stream the show live. I hope you become part of our freedom family. If it were not for our subscribers, this YouTube channel, the radio show, and the website would not exist. It's $9 a month, biggest bang for the buck in all the internet. Stop your cable, get rid of it, to save you $100 and some bucks, put $9 into becoming a member of our platform, and you'll be ahead of the curve, far ahead of the curve. Our subscribers first heard about Hammer on March 19th, 2017, and the rest of the world seemed to find out about it in November of 2020. Join us. You'll be happy you did. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thank you for your time today.